Okay, everybody, welcome back, and thank you for joining me. I am, as always, your host, Romedy, and today we are going to start off on a basics video. So we're going to call this the How to Space Engineers in Survival. I've had a couple of questions, couple of persons saying, I likes your series, but I don't know what you're doing, or I likes the game, but it's too hard for me. Space engineers is hard. You're correct. It is kind of difficult. But the good news is that there is a path that you can follow. There's a way to make it not so difficult. And that's what we're going to do here today is we're going to show you the starting out and how to do this. So if you followed along with what I did, I've created a new world. I've just named it basics. In the advanced settings, all I did was I bumped up some of these things to make the game a little bit less frustrating and less boring for you, the viewer. And then I'm going to choose Lone Survivor. And I'm purposely going to choose Lone Survivor because the easy starts, that gives you lots of materials, but it can be confusing because you have too many things. And then these things down here are not quite what we're going for. So I'm going to do Lone Survivor because it is going to basically, provide you the essentials and only the essentials. And it's going to be this starting point. I think the most difficult starting point that you could possibly have would be, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, again, this Lone Survivor right here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start the new world, and here we go. And so for this episode, for the first episode, what I'm going to take you through is the basics of movement in Space Engineers, which is a little difficult. And then I'm going to take you to the basics of the menus as well. So here we go. We're out. This is all alone. We are here on the platforms. And so before we get into some of these things, I'm going to show you something that everyone should do. Most of these worlds, they start you off with this gravity generator. And this is not always a good thing because the gravity generators, they cost lots and lots of energy to keep running. And so I'm immediately going to come around to the display, which is this thing right here. I'm going to press K in order to access the block. And I'm going to toggle the generator off. Now that's necessarily going to turn my jetpack on because I have no more gravity that I can deal with. So the gravity generator right here, it takes lots of energy. And in the Lone Survivor, and often early times in many of the levels, you have very limited power. So in this case, we only have 0.35 in terms of the powers there. And so that's just not very much. So, okay, you'll notice I'm going to draw your attention to the bottom left-hand side of the screen. I have a little blue window down there. That window is kind of my own information, my personal information. So it says flying at the top of that window. So the flying just means that I have my jetpack turned off. Turned on. And then it says falling right now just because I cannot go anywhere. I cannot move myself around. I'm literally just kind of flailing around because I do not have my jetpack turned on. And so I can't really move at this stage. Now I turn the jetpack back on and all of a sudden I have movement again, which is good. So this is in the absence of gravity, which like I said, I have limited energy. So I have chosen to save myself some energy and turn off the gravity right there. So now the basics of movement here in the game is it's your basic WASD. So W goes forward, S goes back, A to the left, D to the right. It has the addition of a couple other keys as well. So the space bar is going to ascend, and then the C key on your keyboard, the letter C, is going to descend. So I can push all of these keys at different times to get different kinds of motion. So now there's two more that we need to know. That is Q and E. Q is just going to roll us to the left. E is going to roll us to the right. And so now we have all of these movement keys so that we can do lots of different kind of movements. You'll notice that as I fly around, it then takes my energy level and it starts to deplete my energy level. Again, the bottom left-hand corner, fourth from the bottom, is energy. And that's something that I need to pay attention to quite a lot of the time, is my energy level. Especially, well, in creative, I guess it does not matter. So it has to be here in the survival setting. I must pay attention to that. Okay, so there we have the basics of movement down now. And so now let's go to the toolbars. The toolbars are going to be here at the bottom of the screen. And we're going to have two major windows that we're going to access throughout our time in the Space Engineers. So there is a G menu. You hit the letter G and it opens up this block menu. This just shows blocks that are available for you to use, along with some different different things over here, just different categories of blocks. So while we're in the G menu, I'm going to go ahead and take some tools that I need. So I'm going to need a welder, I'm going to need a grinder, and then I'm going to need a hand drill. There is one more, there's a handgun that I don't think I have access to just yet. You have to make the handgun. But those are the 4 personal tools that you have, is those things right there. So that is kind of in a nutshell is the G menu. I can take the blocks that I want, I can click them and then drag them down here to the bar. It's very nice. And now you'll notice that I have these little things up here above the bar. So this is on toolbar number 1. If I hit shift and then the number 2, it will take me to the second toolbar, and then the third, and then the fourth. And just for my own purposes, I like to go ahead and drag the welder and the grinder down to all of my toolbars there on number 1 and 2. You do not have to do that. This is just my own personal preference. I don't like to go after searching for these blocks. I like to have them there. And then the hand drill I only put on to one of my toolbars. And generally I only put the hand drill onto my 4th toolbar, just because I don't use it. These 2 things I will use probably 90% of the time. These things I will not use very much at all. So I go ahead and I remove him off of there. And now just the blocks, the basic blocks that I'm going to need are going to be these light armor blocks right here. If I could drag them down right, I would do better. There we go. These are just the blocks that I'm generally going to use to build early in the game, especially when I'm building my ship. This thruster, this small thruster, is something that I will need. This cockpit right here is something that I am going to need. And I guess I could come up with another block that maybe, these gyroscopes I'm probably going to need as well. So we'll just drag them on down there. So that is one of the menu. And again, that is the G menu. You press G on the keyboard to get into that. The other menu that you need is the K menu. So you press K on your keyboard. Now, if you just push it for yourself, you'll notice that there's all these tabs up here and you have control of things. But it is only for your own personal information right now. So obviously I have no control panel for myself. That would be kind of weird. I'm not producing anything on myself. The info is just going to give me, I can show different ranges, different maps in front of me if I wanted to. However, this tells me a terminal is not connected because I'm not sitting at a terminal. This is just personal. And then factions, you can obviously create factions within the game. So you see in my inventory, I have my welder, my grinder, and then my hand drill. So those are the things I have. So those are the menus. So the G menu is a personal menu. Now if I come over here to what is a control chair. So this would be a control chair that you can use for many different things on a ship or for a station. But if I come here and then I press T, I have this yellow highlight. I press the letter T on my keyboard. It's now going to put me into the chair. And now I have this better overview of what my station looks like, at least when I'm not kind of behind the asteroid here. So I have this better look at what the station is going to look like. So this is my station right here. In order to get my camera to move around like that, I hold the Alt key, and then I have kind of free range of the camera, and then it's going to stick wherever I want when I release the key. Now, for the station, because it is stationary, not going anywhere, I can move my mouse around without the Alt button with no consequence. That is not the case when you are in a ship, and I will show you that here in an episode, I think maybe a little later on. Anyway, so I'm in the chair. When I sit in the chair, you notice that my energy has now replenished to 100%. This means I am pulling energy from the station, and it's not depleting at all, meaning that I'm continuously pulling energy from the station. So now you also notice at the bottom right, I have now gained another information window. So my personal window stays at the bottom left. To the bottom right now is where I'm going to have the information page for whatever structure or ship I'm currently accessing via my control panel. So in this case, I'm on the station. The station does not have a weight. I don't have to worry about moving it. Obviously, speed, it is not going anywhere. So the power usage, that percent, that 0.12%, is of total capacity. That means that the small reactor that we saw a little bit ago, it has a total right below that of 5 megawatts that it can produce at any one time. I'm using 0.12% of that. And then you notice kind of down a little bit below that, it says fuel time. I have 3 days of fuel at this current rate. So when I had the gravity generator on, and I'm going to press T to go away from the station, I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to return on. That's not really a phrase, is it? Return on, that's a bad phrase. I'm going to access this panel again using K. I'm going to toggle this block back on, the gravity generator back on, and now you see that I have a standing in my own window, top left or bottom left at the top of that window. I'm now standing. I don't have to have my jetpack on. But when I go back into the station, you notice that I now only have 41 minutes of fuel time instead of the 3 days of fuel time. And I don't like that very much. I don't like that very much at all. And that's why I turned it off. You see, it takes quite a lot of energy to maintain the gravity generator. So we're not going to do that. So we're going to come back in here. We're going to toggle the block off. We're going to go back into jetpack mode. So you saw with the station that we has back in here, if I go back, if I can push the buttons correctly. There we go, back into the station. Now, when I'm in the station, I can now press K, and now I have quite a bit more information in here. So the inventory over here, it still shows me my own inventory. But when I come over here onto the right, it now shows me all the connected inventories to the station. So I have the assembler, I have the reactor, and I have a refinery. Those are good things. Here in the control panel, I have some things where I can access the block. So here I can remotely go ahead and toggle on and off the gravity generator if I wanted to do that. I can also play around with the fields of how big the gravity fields would be if that block was turned on. This control station is where I am now sitting, so I can control thrusters and wheels and all sorts of different things over here if this were connected to a ship and not to a station. So this platform right here, this is just the platform that we are on. The assembler we already looked at. There's a number of landing gears here. We're going to get to those, I think, in a later episode. A medical room, and then a refinery. So the big things that we're interested in early on, and really throughout the game, but especially early on, the things that we are interested in is the assembler and the refinery. And then also, to a lesser extent, the reactor. Only because this reactor is what is going to give us the energies that we need to live in the game, because we can't live very long. So the max output right here on the reactor is 5 megawatts. You'll notice that we're using just a little bit over 6 kilowatts to keep the station running. That's not too bad at all, I don't think. Now, the refinery for the moment does not have anything in it to be refined. And so it's not using any power. Now, once we go get some things and put them into the refinery, when this turns on, then we are going to see that our reactor is going to have to expend much more energy. So early on in the game like this, for that reason, because we have to use certain things, you have to be given things at the beginning of the game. I cannot just come into Space Engineers and start with a blank world in survival. That doesn't work that way. So, and here is kind of one of the big reasons why. I saw back over here that we have a little bit of gold, so I'm going to get out my hand drill. Not the grinder, the hand drill. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take out some of this gold, and now I'm going to catch it, hopefully. Maybe I catch it, maybe I don't catch it. I'm not very good at this, apparently. Where did it go? Where did it go? I lost my gold. That is okay. We'll take another hit of the gold. Come here. I'm not doing very good at this at all, am I? I'm not catching any of... That's twice now. I cannot catch the gold. How about you? Are you going to give me a little pebble that I can catch? I'm not doing very good at all. Where is the gold at? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I just want to get a little piece of the gold. There's some. Sort of, maybe. I don't understand. What is going on here? I cannot gather the gold or anything. I'm not understanding what is my major malfunction here. I don't understand. Not giving me any of the things that I can go ahead and mine. I don't get it. There we go. Finally, a piece of the gold. Give me the gold. Okay. So I'm going to point out a couple things here before I go take my little piece of gold over there. So you notice in my personal menu down there in the bottom left, near the third from the bottom, it says volume. And when I'm only having these three things right here, my volume is going to be 148 liters. Now, when I put some gold into here, then that changes what my volume is going to be. So that is kind of how I am limited in what I can carry around on my person here, is just by that native way right there. So let's see if we can get the gold to cooperate just a little bit and give us a couple of more chunks that we can go ahead and capture. So far, it's not doing very good, is it? Not doing very good at all. Gold, why are you so difficult with the hand drill? There's a big chunk. We go catch it. So hopefully you noticed that the bottom left, my volume just changed a little bit. I hope you also notice that on my screen here, it is starting to show some of the different ores that you can capture. Obviously, the yellow of the gold is pretty easy to spot, but it's also showing me that I have some iron down there. And iron is one of those things that is ultra boring. I mean, and I'm very serious about this, it is ultra boring. You need absolutely everything needs iron. You have to have lot of iron in the game. And so it's everywhere. But you just don't feel good when you find it. It's, you know, you feel good when you find the gold. You're like, oh, I got the gold now. But the iron is kind of boring that way. So we keeps the hand drill out now. We're going to kind of move around the asteroid just a little bit. We're going to go just a little bit of a mining trip here. Let's see what else we can find. Ideally, I'm going to find some uranium. And because the uranium is what I need early in the game in order to have more of the energies. Now, back here, if I hit the letter L, then I can turn on kind of a weak light. So when I get onto the dark side of the asteroid, now I can start to see. I have some nickel in there. The nickel is a good thing. I do need the nickel. I'm not going to go after him for just right now. We look at the asteroid far away, and you see this image right here, that kind of the rust color. I think that's probably some iron that's on the outside of that asteroid. We may go over and look at him here in the near future. But for right now, we're going to continue to look here and see if we can find maybe a little deposit of the uranium near the surface. So here's the irons right here. Here's a good deposit of the iron. So we're just going to take a couple hits on the iron because we are going to need it here in the game. Like I said, we need lots of iron. Everything uses the irons. And I'm not doing a very good job with my hand drill, and I don't know why. I don't have a good answer for you. I don't know why it's being difficult like this. That's okay. We go take another hit. That almost looks like stone, doesn't it? Is that stone I just picked up? Hit I to go in. Yes, that is stone. We're going to go ahead and just pitch that stone out of the inventory. Actually, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I do need some stone, at least early in the game. You need the stone for the making of the reactor components. Let's see. That did not help us out all that much, so let's go back here. Not so much, not so much. All I want is just a little bit more of the irons. Just maybe one more piece of the iron ore, and I would be happy. This is not going very well. That is okay. We stay at. I told you that Space Engineers is hard game. So now we go back in here. So here's the Fe, the iron. I have a little bit of the irons now. You actually need quite a lot of iron, especially early in the games. You need quite a lot of it. But that's okay for right now. We're just going to get about 600 of it. So I'm looking at my energy. I'm getting down into the 70%, so I still have quite a lot of energy left. We're going to continue to kind of survey the asteroid. I'm not seeing any uraniums here on the outside of the asteroid. This here is that's just stone, so never mind. I thought that was something promising, but it's just stone. I see we have some silver here. So silver, very easy to spot. It's very bright and shiny. Also very good for the reactor components. Not a lot of uses early in the game for silver. What was this down over here? So that is more of the irons. Not a lot of uses early in the game for the silver, so I'm not going to go out of my way to collect a lot of it, but I will, since I'm here, go ahead and take at least a piece or two. Come back here. Come back here. What I'm doing, you hear me on my keyboard hammering the letter T. The letter T is how I pick up the objects flying around. And so what you're doing is you're hearing me hammer on the letter T so that I can pick up that silver block as it floats away from us here. So there's a big chunk of silver. We take that. Okay, so that's enough silver for right now. Not a very necessary and or needed ore. I need to keep my drill out because otherwise I can't see if there's anything here that's interesting in front of me. This looks just like a lot of stone. Okay, so our asteroid here, it seems like it's quite a lot of stone, and it's all on the dark side of the asteroid, so we're going to come back around over here to where our station is, and we're going to go ahead and start looking at some of the early blocks that you need. So, in addition to the control chairs that I can sit in to regenerate my energy, I can come over here to the health station. This is a medical station. The primary use for this block is as a respawn point. Once I build the medical station, I can use this as a respawn point. I can also, by accessing, anytime you see this little yellow block like that, you can hit T to access. This will allow me to go ahead and change the look of the suit that I have my astronaut here. So I can do that if I want. For this moment, I'm not going to do that quite so much. Maybe we'll just do some of this saturating like this. Maybe we go over here to the pink. I think 308 is probably a hot pink. So we move my value here. We do a lot of desaturating. And then all of a sudden, I have the very much hot pink asteroid suit. This is pretty cool. I think I like the pink. But yeah, so I can use that station not only as a respawn, but also to kind of customize the way that I look. And then particularly right here, if I access this, in addition to regenerating my energy, if I hold down the letter T, this will also regenerate my health. And you can get damaged by things. It's very, very easy in this game to get damaged by things. The physics is great is maybe the thing. An additional window that you see pop up right here, I'm going to just hold on to my level. On the right, because I have the welder in my hand, we start to see a list of the components that are needed to build the medical station right here. I'm not going to spend too much of the time on that, but the grinder and the welder will give me access to that window. Now, the drill obviously does not. But yes, there we go. We're all healthy now. So that is the medical station. Usually you are supplied with one of these primarily so that you can regenerate the health, but also because it is a respawn point. We already talked a little bit about the gravity generator. He is kind of useless for right now because I don't think we need the gravity. I don't want to spend the money, or not the money, the energies on him. This is my reactor. So again, I can use K to go ahead and access into this. You see that I now have in my inventory here, in addition to what's going over here. Now I could, if I wanted to, try to go and drop my my things over here, but the reactor tells you I brought over some silver, and then it won't let me put this into the reactor. And right below the silver that I'm holding, it says uranium ingot. This means that I have to have uranium, refined uranium, in order to put it into the reactor. Okay, so now to the important blocks that we have right here. So this smaller guy here on the bottom, this is going to be the assembler, and that is bigger thing up top here, this larger thing is going to be the refinery. And now we have one more block here on the top. This is a beacon. So this beacon is something so that if I fly way out of here, I'm going to have this little green thing, this platform thing telling me where I can return to. So that beacon is basically just broadcasting out into space where I am and how I can return to certain locations. So the refinery here is what we want to be most interested in for the moment. When I mine things, I get ore. Now I cannot use this ore. The ore must be refined over here in the refinery. So if I go ahead and put my iron in here, you see that it actually refines very quickly. I got 335 iron ingots out of that. If I put the gold over here, the gold is going to refine a little bit slower than that. And the gold and the silver kind of refine it at a middling pace, kind of a medium pace. Obviously the iron and also things like stone are going to refine considerably faster. So I have to put things into the refinery before I can actually use them to build stuff. Now we come over here to the reactor, and you're going to notice that if I go into the control panel on this thing, that originally we were just using 6, and now we're using 565 kilowatts. So about 550 kilowatts of energy per reactor is what you can expect. And then the last thing I point out to you while the reactor is still running is if I come back here to this guy, now I have 40 minutes of time left on my uranium instead of the 3 days that I had. And that's because the reactor, the refinery is now running and taking energy from the reactor. So now, once things have been made in the refinery, I can come down here to the assembler, and then I can put the things from the reactor that I have made up here into the assembler so that they will be ready to go ahead and produce stuff. So I have to use the ingots that are refined in order to make the components. So it's kind of a two-step process before I can get to a place where I can actually build things. So yeah, so that's kind of why early on in the game, why I can't just have nothing and turn it into something, because I actually must have at least these 3 blocks right here. They are required. I have to have the energy either with the reactor, or later on you can have solar panels, and then I have to have the refiner, and I have to have the assembler. So you must have these 3 things along with a little bit of uranium when you start out with. Otherwise, you're just going to die. You can't build anything. You can't make anything. You just die. So, but yeah, I think I end this episode right here just as the mining carriage. So that is a hostile ship that is going to, I can capture him if I want, but he's going to try and shoot at me. Yeah, but anyway, so I'm going to end this episode right here. We covered kind of how to move around. It's a traditional WASD with the addition of QE and then also the space bar and the letter C. We've kind of shown you some of the different blocks that you start off with and how they interact with each other, and then we've shown you the 2 menus. So here is the G menu, and then here is the K menu, and kind of the different things that you can do within the G and the K menu. So cut this episode off right here, and then when I come back, what we're actually going to cover is the beginnings, kind of more of the beginnings, so like traveling to the other asteroids, how the inertia dampeners and the jetpack and all these other things, how we can kind of play with those things to either save the energy. And then also what I'm going to talk with you about is very early on how we can kind of use the things that we have been given around us to go ahead and make the beginning of the game easier to deal with. Because obviously, as you saw, doing stuff by hand with the hand drill is boring and tedious, and I don't always get what I am aiming for. and so we kind of want to find a way around that. I'm going to show you kind of a better way, perhaps, for starting the game other than just the hand drill. So, okay, I hope you enjoy. Hopefully, I get to see you again, and as always, thank you for watching.